Okay, so we are continuing now for the last presentation of the day. We have Neta Raanan. Are you say exactly?
We should get a native Israeli to say it. Raanan?
Raanan?
Yeah.
Please
There
clap
you
for
go.
Neta with us today. Now, I have a little secret to tell. Neta is one of my favorite saxophone player at Berkeley. I don't know if I ever told that, but she's really somebody that it's for me it's such a pleasure every time I hear her playing. She has a very personal approach, and that approach goes into her music. So I'm extremely curious and excited to hear your presentation, Neta. And Neta's been working with Carl throughout the year as a personal advisor. And we have Bertram Lehman with us today as an invited member of the panel. Please clap for Bertram. Thank you for being with us. And Neta presentation, the name is Echoes of Nature. Thank you, Neta.
Thanks.
All right.
So yeah, these are not stock photos. My friend thought they were stock photos, but I actually took all of them. But that one's from like Seven Haviland, and the rose is from the Rose Garden in Portland, and this that's on a farm in Vermont, Arizona, and New Hampshire, and then this is actually like in my backyard in New Jersey, the trees on the bottom. So I kind of grew up in the woods, always like correlated music and nature to me had a very similar energy, like the creativity and the spontaneity, like the cyclical nature of nature. Yeah, I said nature twice. The cyclical nature of the environment that I think is also found in music pretty often. And the yin and the yang, kind of the symbiotic relationships between different instrumentations. So it's something I kind of wanted to explore more. I had a few experiences that just made it more of a reality for me. One time I was in a jazz camp in Connecticut, like on the Appalachian Mountain, where we used to practice in a field where it would kind of just speak back to us. Like we would play some scales, it would bounce off the mountain. So you'd play it, a few seconds go by, it would come back like the mountain was playing it back to you. And a few weeks after that, I went to see Terence Blanchard playing, and he actually had an effect on his trumpet that created the exact same effect, which kind of blew my mind and made me think that whether consciously or subconsciously, we're trying to kind of capture the essence of kind of different forces of nature through our music. So I'm glad I got to spend this year thinking about that, and I found a lot of music that I'd like to show you from different eras that kind of reflect this idea. This is a bamboo forest in Indonesia. This is the angklung, which is actually a native instrument of the area. So there's bamboo like covering the island completely, like different climates throughout the island. You'll find bamboo all over the place anyways. There's 160 different species. So in my mind, when you're surrounded with material, it's kind of like inevitable for humans to start making sounds with them and to start making music with them. This is a very ancient instrument. It's been around since the 7th century, and it's just recently was named by UNESCO as a masterpiece of oral and intangible heritage of humanity. It reflects the land in a really unique way, and I think that's recognized by UNESCO. If you don't know, it's the United Nations for Education, Science, and Culture organization. So yeah, I'm gonna share a little excerpt of this instrument. You'll hear it later originally it was just the angklung, the bamboo angklung in the ensembles, and later, if most of you know this music, you'll think about that it's the metal kind of vibraphones they use. That was later on, but you'll hear it in the beginning of the excerpt. And later on, it'll open up a little bit into more of the bamboo sound. Yeah, so I'm going to move on to Africa, where the calabash gourd is actually one of the first plants to ever be cultivated by humans. And to me, it's very interesting. It's been made into many, many different instruments throughout Africa. So these are some of the different instruments that have been made from this plant. On the top right, that's just called the calabash. It's played as a hand percussion instrument. Right next to it, you'll see the bellophone, where the gourd is actually used as resonators for the keys. And underneath, the mbira also uses the gourd as a resonator. There you see the Ghanaian ahache, or also found in other West African countries. And beneath it, there's the kora, which is a harp made from the instrument, and another instrument that I forgot the name of. So yeah, moving on from there, this is a really incredible instrument to me that uses the cocoons of the moth found in the region. It's a South Arizona Yaqui Native American tribe. You'll see on his legs, these are percussion instruments that they make noise while they're dancing. That is actually, those are all like moth cocoons. So these are all kind of like a traditional use of this idea, but very contemporary, only started a few years ago in Scandinavia, that they started making ensembles that use all instruments made out of ice. So I'll show you a short clip of that.
Listen to my instrument. I have to listen to my instrument instead of deciding how it's going to sound. The instrument decides how I will play. I think it's a great honor to have the possibility of making music on the most important resource of the world, water.
So I'm gonna move on to there, to another instrument. This kind of, to me, resembles the use of the space of the environment as a part of the instrument. We had a scientist from Harvard, Brian Farrell, that came and was telling us that some of the earliest drawings found by humankind also coincided with the caves that were the most resonant, which suggests that those places were also used for music. There's also, I think we crave the space that music used to come from a lot. Now we replicate it digitally. As I learned in Bob Patton's class, that some of the reverb that we use on instruments nowadays was created by creating like a huge sound in a lot of different environments. A lot of the time they use like a starter pistol or they pop a balloon, and they find the algorithms of the way that the the sound travels through that space, and those are put in the studio onto different vocalists and drummers, and kind of like, to me, it's like reaches back to the time where we were really using the space to create the sound, something like cathedral music, where they have longer tones and drones as a part of the music. That's reflective of the environment where the music is made. And in other places that are more dry, like kind of outdoor music, you'll hear a lot more percussion music, a lot like quicker percussion that wouldn't work in other environments. So I think this is kind of like one of the roots of where that came from. This instrument actually uses the earth, literally the earth, as like a resonator. They dig a hole and they have a string that they tie. So the earth is actually a part of the instrument. It's creating the sound of the instrument. And as you see, it's found in many, many cultures around the world. We have on the top 2 in West Africa, and to the left of that, there's a Cuban instrument. On the bottom, you see Vietnam, they have it, as well as in India, and the tingo talango is also Cuban. And as you might know from the south, there's the gut bucket bass, which is kind of a variation of this. This is a video of the pygmies between Congo and Cameroon playing this instrument. Have to move on because I'm running out of time, but this is a really great video. The kids join in after a while too. Moving on to more contemporary composers that use kind of ideas from nature. I think it's a more separated interpretation of, you kind of see that the relationship went from outdoors to indoors, because these are kind of more cerebral ways of interpreting nature. This is an image of a process that was made by Villa-Lobos, a Brazilian composer, that he called millimeterization. He would go to the mountains with like a sheet of paper that was a little bit see-through, and the contour of the mountain he would draw on the paper, and he would come home and create a melody that was based off of that shape. So this is a short sample. You can see the melody there. It'll vary from it after one bar, but you'll get a concept of what it is. The name of the piece is Symphony No. 6 for orchestra. It's translated to On the Outlines of the Mountains of Brazil. So. This is another contemporary composer. She is Icelandic, one of the first to kind of deal with electronics in contemporary composition. Her name is Kaya Searaho, and she was actually kind of obsessed with the sound of wind. She said that working with computers, that the sounds were so boring with the early computers that she started craving these kind of micro variations that you only find in nature. When she speaks about wind, she'll speak about the way that it never sounds the same twice. She also is really, really adoring of the concept that there's so much symmetry and order in nature, and yet there's no two things that are the same. So this is a small excerpt of a piece that's for flute and electronics. I'm gonna move on to Macian. Just gonna play the short video. He was a really dedicated transcriber of bird calls, and he used it in a lot of his pieces. This is a video of part of his process.
Et voici le rossignol. Il éclate tout d'un coup, brusquement. La seconde strophe, ce sont des batteries sur deux sons très célèbres. Tico, 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 tico. Ensuite, dans le grave, un timbre mêlé clavecin et gong qui fait tchou, 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 tchou. Voici le râle de genêt. C'est étrange, ce rythme iambique, brève, longue, que l'on entend dans les hautes herbes de la prairie. C'est lui, il fait... Et puis, des notes répétées qui se terminent par un torculus victorieux. Tio, 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 la Borix. Et enfin, des sons lents, lunaires, lointains. On croirait que ça vient d'une autre planète et que l'oiseau est parti bien, bien loin ailleurs. Et puis tout d'un coup, il est là et il y a une phrase formidable et très rapide pour finir et très forte.
Yeah. I also wanted to address, to me, the very powerful concept that a lot of early cultures were, as you heard in some of the other presentations, like Mao and Gai Young, very early cultures often have songs that are related to the harvest. I was talking to my friend about it, and he was saying it's funny that spoken words he didn't think that the cultures thought would connect with the rain and the earth, but somehow music elevated it to a point where it was resonating, that they could connect. This is a picture. This is a sand painting, Navajo sand painting. These are usually ceremoniously burned, so this is a fake one. If they still exist, that means they're fake. This portrays Pollen Boy, and you'll see 9 feathers in different colors. These represent songs, so I'll try to say a quick version of the myth. Pollen Boy was a young boy that he was raised next to a huge purple mountain that had beyond it an even higher white cliff. And next to his family, there was a medicine man who lived there. And he would always ask the medicine man, how can I go to this cliff? How can I get there? And the medicine man said to him, if you really want to go there, you need to spend a lot of time kind of learning these magic songs. And after maybe 10 years, the medicine man said, you've learned these magic songs pretty well. It's time for you to go to the cliff. And the boy said he didn't know, he was like, how exactly am I supposed to get there? And the medicine man said, you'll feel it, you'll know when you get there, when it happens. So they gave him a bag of pollen, golden pollen, that he spreads throughout his trip, and a bag of gifts. And he goes, for days and days and days, he walks up the purple mountain. and he gets to the summit and he's looking at the cliff, and he doesn't know what to do. So he starts singing one of his magic songs, and all of a sudden a rainbow appears, and he walks over the rainbow to the cliff. And when he gets there, there's like 4 doors. Each of them are guarded by either lightning, serpents, or bears. And at each door, he sings one of these magic songs. And as the story goes, if you're not killing enough, you'll get hit by lightning or eaten by bears. So he goes through each one of the door, and at the end, he finally gets to this kind of nature god, and he sings him a song. Well, he sees the nature god, and the guy is angry. Like, he's like, "What are you doing here? You're human. You don't belong here." And the pollen boy starts to sing one of the magic songs, and all of a sudden he's invited with open arms, and the god gives him corn and food and like all the seasons to take back to his village. So I think that's kind of an archetype of a kind of myth that you'll actually find in a lot of different cultures. My last section is about kind of activists, like musicians who are also ecological activists. This is a quotation of one of the co-founders of the Natural Resource Defense Council. It says, "We scientists don't know how to do that. I used to think the top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that 30 years of good science could address those problems. But I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with those, we need a spiritual and cultural transformation. And we scientists don't know how to do that." I found this to be pretty profound, because even if we have the technology we need in order to make this a safe place to live and enable resources for all the future generations, we're not going to use them unless we feel spiritually connected to the environment. So there's a few artists that are active in this kind of thing. A few years ago, the government in Australia was trying to destroy part of the coral reef there, and a lot of artists, including Hiatus Coyote and a lot of other kind of like pop artists that are really well known, got together to raise money against this. Also, in general, Joe Beam and a lot of the nationalist Brazilian composers were really dedicated to this cause. The millimeterization process that I showed you before was actually a process used to kind of get children involved in nature. So they would go trace the mountains with the children, and then like the teachers would reharmonize and create melodies to kind of have the children be involved in this process. And of course, one of our leaders here at Global Jazz, Danilo Perez, is also very involved in this. He has a foundation in Panama where they're going into the jungle there and creating instruments. So I'll just finish off the presentation with one of the songs from my recording session. I wrote it after watching like a snowboarding documentary called The Art of Flight, where these guys are going in helicopters like to places where basically everyone is like, you can't go there because if you do go there, you'll die. And they're like, okay, so we're gonna go there and we're gonna snowboard there. So to me, it kind of symbolizes almost, the thing is when they do things like this, they're risking their lives, and to me that's very powerful because it's like they're losing their self and they're trying to become the nature, like they're like accumulating speed and moving their body in shapes that can only happen with like the power, with the force of nature. That's the mountain there and the snow. So these guys also are very involved with environmental activism, all the snowboarders. So I watched this documentary and then I wrote this song. So yeah, this is the end of my presentation here.
Thank you, Neta. Who would like to comment?
Nice, very informative and well put together and well thought out. I can see you spent a lot of time doing a lot of research and really, really great stuff. I would like to look at all of that even deeper, you know, because it's so much there. Yeah, how many songs did you record?
3 different compositions.
Okay, and did they all? Can you explain the other two, like what they related to?
Yeah, one of them is called Green Spheres. Kind of about what I was saying. I was just looking around, and everywhere I saw, there's like these beautiful, perfect circles, like in nature. So that's kind of based on that. And another one was a rain song with a recording of a rain from my place in New Jersey, and it starts with a kind of tension that causes the rain and goes on to be like more rhythmic.
So I would have loved to have heard maybe a little bit of that, you know, both of those, just to connect it more to, you know, your presentation, or even heard a little more music integrated, you know, in the presentation, just to hear, you know, your recording, like what you did to connect yourself to it, other than, you know, the research and all that you did. And like, because do you feel like you're going to continue this way of approaching music? Are you going to maybe get involved, or I don't know how involved you already are, like with activism and all that? Or is this a long-term passion of yours?
I think so. I mean, it would be a dream to go visit Danilo's foundation in Panama and see what they're doing there. He just kind of recruited this scientist from Harvard that's starting to be involved in global. So I'm excited to see that unfold in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. And my last question is, who else was playing on that recording?
Oh, yeah, sorry. JK on drums, my friend Rob Taylor on bass, Aaron Tevis on trumpet, and Isaac Wilson is also in the session.
Great job. Really, really great job.
Brava. Neta has come to us with lots of different impulses, lots of different strands to her temperament. As a visual artist, I would say, as a very sensitive human being in terms of nature and even beyond nature, I would say, to the universe. There's curiosity, there's ethnomusicology, there's activism, and I encourage you to follow all of those different strands, because that's what's creating your art, and it's very strong. There's an attraction to music of meditation, music of trance, but also music that expresses the power and the beauty and the fragility of nature, the balance. I do hope that you plan to continue this work because it's very inspiring, it's very nice.
Thanks, Carl.
This was great to hear. I feel the same as Terry, I think, in that I would love to hear all of your music, and there's just not enough time. I wish we had more time because it was really interesting what you presented about what inspires you. And I really get a strong sense of your very honest enthusiasm and inquiry into those things. It seems like that was really just fun for you to share those amazing things with us, and many of them were new to me. I certainly didn't know. I didn't know about all of them at all, and I want to know more. So it's exciting to see what excites you in music and what inspires you. And that sample we just heard, I mean, that one piece is very powerful. It's really strong. And I've heard you're playing mostly on recordings of other people's projects, and it's been very impressive, very alive, very creative. Strong skills, but put to the service of a lot of imagination and passion in your playing. So I want to hear more of it. I hope you'll make the music available for us to hear all of it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, but what I heard there sounded really impressive and strong. Is it the same group on all three pieces?
Yeah, with the addition of Isaac on the others.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Can't wait to hear it.
Well,
Okay,
thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Wonderful presentation. And like Alan, when we met a little bit these past few days, I was very impressed with your interest and the different ways of trying to find out about. Basically, what impresses me about these examples is the completely different, diverse soundscapes that they all evoke. Plant-based, water, insects. It's really, it serves as a memory or a reminder, I think, for a musician, for all of us to, like, what the world has to offer in terms of, and has offered over the millennia to creation of instruments and the kind of what the gentleman in the ice music case was saying, creating sounds that the instrument kind of gives the player and really interacts with that, and you kind of create your aesthetic around that. So that was very interesting. I really liked that, and the whole thought process that it triggers. So hopefully it keeps triggering it for you in the rest of your career. Thank you.
Thanks so much for all the help with the project too.
Yeah, Neta, was really inspiring to see you talking, preparing this material, you know, the scope of it, so much things that you cover in so little time, and the way, obviously, the passion that is guiding you through this, and seeing you speaking about it, you know, and putting that you know, obviously that vision out, and that ideas, and seeing you so connected with it, I thought it was an extremely poignant presentation, you know, and see how you connect personally with the things, and also with some of the people that influence you. I think that one of the things that I feel, just like Alan and Terry, is in terms of the presentation, to understand how these influences that obviously are very strong in you are kind of creating the music process. That's what maybe I'm missing a little bit here. Maybe you can talk a little bit. How, you know, how all of these are creating inspiration for your music, or if, you know, and how you've been putting this project together, you know, doing the research about these things and about nature and music. And now as a composer, your process has been, and also as an improviser, maybe you can talk a little bit, since, you know, we definitely would like to hear more of your music. But since we maybe don't have time, maybe you can talk a little bit about how all of this information has, how did you filter all of this into your music when you were writing and improvising it?
I think it actually is pretty similar to what a lot of other people are going through, and I don't know if Mr. Marvugilo is still here, but as he said earlier, New Jersey is kind of like a melting pot, and the drive from New York City kind of smells weird. We don't have a great reputation, even though some of the most amazing musicians are from New Jersey, like Wayne Shorter and Bill Evans, pretty sure Count Basie, Sarah Vaughan, but I don't know why we don't talk about it. But anyways, everyone just says Bruce Springsteen. So basically, everyone's kind of been trying to find their roots, and people coming from different country are, in their mind, are saying that's where my roots are from, which I think is really cool. Not having kind of the similar, like, other place to come from. I think that for me, the music has always come from nature. You know, it's a wind instrument. Everything is air. Like, the drums is the earth. To me, Patitucci is like, almost every time he plays, it's like he just came from out of the underground or something. So to me, it's pretty amazing that actually the origin of the instrument was using the ground as a resonator is amazing. To me, I think it's almost like subconscious. Like, I think we don't really give enough credit to the environment for the music. Like, to me, it never feels like the music is coming out of me. It's like when I let go of myself, that's where the music is. So I feel like I let go of myself and I'm kind of becoming the environment. It's kind of like every time I play, that's my influence. So as far as like more programmatic, like explained ways, I think that's really cool, but I kind of like the mystery of also, actually Camille could tell you, when I first showed my song, I didn't want to say anything about it, because I just like the way that it kind of transmits these ideas without saying anything at all. But I do think it's important to have people being advocates for the environment, especially in this day and age. It seems like most of the people who are doing that, their power is like through money. It seems like the people that stand up, like Radiohead or Bono, are like really financially can really contribute. But maybe just by talking to musicians about the way that that we're really, all the music is coming from there in a way, it can create like maybe a stronger connection, or just recognize that, you know, all the instruments we're playing are coming from the earth. So I don't know if that helps at all. It's kind of, yeah.
Okay, Neta Raanan, thank you so much.